Okay, guys. So this is about honesty and being honest with and being reasonable and rational. And this is kind of something fun. Um, so last night coming across the bridge, you have traffic and you have the two sides, the two lanes, and one side, it's red. On the other side, it's yellow. Everybody has to merge over. Um, and then you have all these Speedy Gonzales, going on the other side. And something I was kind of taught when I was doing landscaping. Um, we had the big truck, and the one guy, I think Chris was his name, he would maneuver over with the big truck to prevent any of the people speeding past from from speeding past to get, to cheat everybody else who's staying in line and making traffic go faster. Um, you have the caterpillar effect, and you got to be reasonable. Those people that are speeding past, they're only gonna, like, when you come outside the other side of the tunnel and traffic starts to speed up, they're literally only like 15 seconds ahead of you, if that makes any sense. So everybody's speeding ahead just to get a few seconds ahead. So I did that last night. It was kind of empowering. You do it. I didn't do it too far before merge, but it was still just like, and nobody was mad. Nobody was honking their horn. And then the guys next to me, they were making sure there's a space in between so that when it did merge back over, so there's kind of a respect there. Because I knew what I was doing. I think they appreciated it because people get tired of that. And it was just kind of an interesting way of being reasonable. Um, but anyway, I think other people, when you see that, you're like, damn, I like that. I appreciate that. Because I hate, I'm not in a rush. If anybody was in a rush and they're honking their horn, they need to get past, if there's like a woman who's pregnant or so, of course you're going to let somebody through, but everybody's going in the same direction. So it's just kind of time to slow down. Because even when you lead, um, if you go over to the next lane and that kind of backs up traffic in that lane, but that brings the traffic to the front, so people merge. That's where people start merging naturally. Um, I don't know. I could be wrong with that idea perhaps, but it's kind of about being reasonable, rational. But anyway, um, but it gets into another topic too. And this is a very, 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 very strange, but also very honest opinion that I have, and this goes into science fiction writing. This goes into reality. When I myself and other people, you start running into other people that have kind of, when you know somebody, and you're like, okay, there's something about that person. Um, Maybe we need to have that conversation, or maybe in your mind you're like, okay, there's something about it, I know exactly what it is, but when we finally have that conversation, it's going to be close to what you're thinking. But that is when you can identify other people that have raised instincts or awareness, and then it gets into the topic of, yeah, you're thinking something, and then they say the same trigger words that you were just thinking, or vice versa, and that keeps happening. You're like, okay, well, this is exactly why I thought this person may have had those abilities. I call them abilities, but it's just like raised intuition, I think. But this happens a lot. Personally, guys, I feel when it comes down to energy and everything, you have the masculine and feminine, and you have you see like psychics or fortune tellers and stuff and all that. It gets into a lot of things, but generally on the male side of things, homosexuals and gay men tend to have those abilities more present, I think, or it comes through in different waves. It comes through more fluidly. You have the wizards of war. It gets into science fiction. You have I guess that's the best way to describe all this. In science fiction too, you have the wizards, the warlocks, the the different people that are trained in different areas. So it doesn't exclude the straight male population. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because especially in war too, you have instincts, and people see that in the military and everything as assets and whatnot. But so then when you meet those people, and you finally have those conversations, or you've known them for a while, and then you're like, okay, we're finally going to have that conversation, and then they go and lead to like being part of uh, what is called psychic bitches, I guess is what he said. And then you're just like, damn, this is going to go in that direction, isn't it? We're going to start talking about that, aren't we? And then, um, of course, everybody comes from, even if you have those types of different abilities, it's a common ground, but you still have your own opinions. So you have contradictions and beliefs, contradictions and what's right, what's wrong. And a lot of things that's going around in the world is morality and reason. And I know where I stand, and I know from my perspective, I feel like there's a lot of lying and cheating and a lot of fear tactics, a lot of intimidation, and even in this world of this is part of like, to describe it, science fiction, like this group of trained professionals in the psychic world and government, also in real society, people that have those abilities, and they're also trying to seek out each other, find teams and everything. It gets into a weird dynamic, but also very, very interesting science fiction writing. Especially when you bring that into the gay world, it creates, you talk about drama, you talk about drama, and that gets into some real stuff there. But it's nothing to be afraid of, especially coming from the side that I'm coming from too, if that makes any sense. When your life's work is about creation and problem solving and finding reason, and finding common threads to build bridges, and finding those things that will work, and facing a quiet and shy guy like myself, the kinds of challenges I've faced and the kind of characters I've faced get very, 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 very intense. And I don't seek out those things. Sometimes they happen that way, where it's intimidating and everything. And sometimes it happens out when you're like, man, that's beautiful. I see that beautiful person that, even though publicly, I think a lot of people don't share that side of themselves. It's like, it's just something that, it's like this unspoken natural gift that many, many people have, but nobody really talks about. But it also gets into dynamics. You have narcissists and you have empaths, but even in that world, it gets into some really crazy drama, and a world of fake news, and in a world of trying to distort facts and everything. You can see that there's sides that are trying to, I don't want to say harm you have the good and the bad side, but when you look at everything, there's both good and bad on both sides, and then you fracture that out into two different, it's not just one side. You have like, I don't know, like I don't know, it's fanned out, the different perspectives and types of people in the world. But lost the train of thought. But speaking specifically too on myself, this kind of rendezvous with one guy that I'm talking about, and I can say this here and be honest. I tend to run into other writers. Everybody's writing stories and science fiction novels and everything, and then of course when you finally have that conversation with this guy, he's like, yeah, well, I've been writing a trilogy. No shit, Sherlock. I've been, it's not a no shit, Sherlock. It's like, what? I should have known. I should have guessed, because these are the type of people everybody's trying to write their stories and make it the best, the most epic, the most intriguing. But then you understand that people that are trained in those fields to also try to test or challenge the other person with their intuition and their challenges, and some people use fear and intimidation. Other people use inspiration and ways to test, like, are you good? Are you legit? Are you the good kind of people that I want on my side? And that's where I'm coming from. And I made a joke I made a joke a couple weeks back about the worst pickup line ever. Was somebody that was coming out of a bar, and he's like, "Man, didn't you hear? Like, did you hear, man?" He was leaving. He's like, "Didn't you hear, man? It's all over. It's all over, man." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "North Korea, man. Like, they got missiles going towards New York, and it's just look it up, man. Just look it up." And I was looking at him, and it's like, "Okay, you're pulling my chain." And anyway, and then we were laughed about it, and then he's like, "Hey, you want to go grab a drink or something?" He's like, "Where are you going? You want to go here too? Come on with me." And I was like, "Yeah, that was actually a really crappy pickup line." Um, but um, but with truth and honesty too, I would hope people that understand what I'm talking about with going out to inspire, not conspire, but to inspire. And I'm always trying to seek out people who are on similar paths, and um, those people know who they are, and the good people's and that's a broad spectrum too, because there's lots of people that have been crappy places, and but then there's also like those that want to trash on each other, and those that want to judge each other, just to upscale or upscore the other person. Um, and what's beautiful about that and who I am, is when I look in comparison, anyone there's not much trash talking to go around about myself. I know that. Um, in my past, I've been in situations. Sure, it's like the true honesty of, especially in the dating world and everything. People appreciate honesty. Like, I've been in situations, and after I'm just like, okay, so that wasn't the best decision. But then you look back on it too as a form of empowerment, and whether you're learning or you're growing from it. Um, and then you find, like, even in mistakes, you realize there's a chance and opportunity for empowerment to face that and say, you know what, I had this instincts before I went into it, and when I left there, it didn't change, it didn't flip, but it was almost something even more knowledgeable that I'm learning. I don't know, you learn about yourself and you grow. um, but anyway, so having this final conversation with somebody, he's like, oh, he was talking about music. We're talking about, because I always bring it to music. That's where I go. That's how I roll. Kind of having that commonality over music. He mentioned one female artist, and then he's like, oh, there's a video I want to show you before you leave. You gotta watch it. And then, so we're leaving, and he's like, okay, I gotta show you this. And he's like, you can't look at the TV. He's like, don't look at the TV. I was like, okay, that's weird. Um, he's like, you're never gonna guess where it came from. Um, and this was a very, very intense situation, but I feel like I have to be on anyway. So I was like, okay, I'll play along, and then it was kind of epic. It was very epic. Like, it had a kind of a dance beat to it, I guess, but it was all live music. I turned around eventually, and it was an all-female band, and it was all live instruments, and it had kind of this classical, but also dance EDM kind of beat to it. I was like, it's rad, that's pretty epic. He had a nice sound system too, so you could hear the clarity and everything. But he's like, do you know where it came from? And I was like, no. And he's like, it's North Korea. You had the audience and everything. And then, but it was kind of like this propaganda video. He had Kim Jong Un and missiles in the background, like, and he's like, yeah, this is propaganda, man. Like, this is propaganda. And but where I come from, I was like, okay, I see it's propaganda, but it's obvious. It becomes obvious, and you got to kind of laugh at things like that. But at the same time, you got to look at that too and say, like, this was music, and for whatever reason, there's this big onstage epic rendition of what music is and everything, and it was odd because it was conformity. It was about discipline, but it was about music. Like, it gets down to music, to inspire. And then it got into a slight conversation. I saw that as a challenge. Like, you had propaganda coming from North Korea, and that was my time to speak up, and that was my time to say, as an American and everything too. What we get. If we're gonna go into a world of discipline and competition and everything, let's show, America's a melting pot of society, and we have so much talent musically, performance wise, and I still think that's what everybody appreciates. Well, what I appreciate during the Olympics is those opening ceremonies and everything. It's the competition of creativity, and so there's that propaganda of war and intimidation and everything that came through this video. And I was like, that's not exactly what it's about here. It's actually about being true to your culture and demonstrating the best parts and the most inspiring parts about your society and your culture. Um, like I said, it was a very, very intense situation. But what was cool is I made some points and he backed off. He's like, listen, man, I don't actually, he stepped back. He's like, I don't actually believe what that's the other side's trying to push. And I get what you're saying. Like, it was kind of like this back and forth. Like, I'm testing you. Tell me what you believe. And then, and it was very, very intense. Um, but then even in the story I was writing, there's always, and I've had kind of schizophrenia before where I was like, oh man, I think I'm paranoid. Like government is sending agents to, I don't know, it gets weird. It gets weird sometimes. But then when stuff like this happens, it kind of helps inspire or propel the story. Um, where you think like a company or something, from government that we don't know about, that deals with secrets of society, or you have like the Templar or or you have the secret society, Skull and Bones, whatever, white hats. There's all kinds of different. I haven't quite decided what to label that group in my story, because the point of those groups is for not anybody to know who they are. So it's okay to kind of generalize. But when you meet people like this, like I said, again, it becomes intense, but when you got to respect who you are and where you come from and say, listen, if I'm being challenged, if I'm being intimidated, if somebody is trying to make a fool out of me, I have to come respectfully from who I am and where I come from and what I'm trying to do in this world and what I'm trying to inspire. Um, Again, like that scenario that I just told you guys, that was intense. Especially when they kind of hint to like, yes, I have more knowledge here, 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 here. I know these. I may or may not know people in these categories or on this side or working with, and they lead towards that. And it's kind of like, okay, I get that. I don't know exactly all the truths that you're telling, or where you come from, but this is where I come from, and you got to respect where I'm coming from, because this is where solutions come from, and this is where inspiration comes from. And then you start to realize, like, the way I phrase it, and you have those points where you're like, all right, I got a point to make here, and I'm going to make it clear, and I'm making it loud, and then you say it, and then it kind of pushes them back, and they're like, yo, you're right about that. And then when you realize you can at least, at small fractions, influence or change the mind in a better direction, you're like, all right, well, I'm doing something good. I didn't expect to be put in this situation, but I am, and I did. And I see those things that is making small changes, even if that was a real scenario or a fake scenario. It is still a scenario worth speaking your voice on. And it gets into very, very interesting dynamics, especially in the gay world, especially judgment and everything too. That's extremely important, because you just gotta be careful out there when people try to pull you to their side, or they try to lure you to their side, but then you also got to see people as people too, and realize not everybody is quite conformed to what, even if they come from one side or the other, they're not quite conformed or fully completely. Nobody has all that knowledge to make rational decisions on a large scale, and I think everybody's trying to get information to make the best decisions in the world. And So this kind of goes into the story writing too, guys. But I'm telling you, like, I'm telling you, it's hard. I don't think it's hard for people to believe when you look into astrology, you look into intuition, you look into the dream world or instincts or just the small things, again, where you're thinking of somebody and they call you, or you're thinking something and somebody says it, or a song comes in your head and you start humming, and another person, or no, more like there's a song on the radio, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to start humming, but then somebody else starts humming at the exact same time to the same song, or so it just kind of shows that people have similar energies, and I think music has a lot to do with it. I think me as a person, an individual, I think I think and that those dynamics, I think jealousy, and also it's almost like a a virtual game, I guess, if you want to put, but at the same time, um, it's weird. It gets into tribalism and stuff, sure, but at the same time, I think um, I feel like there's no harm in um, I know who I am, and an expression of ideas and everything. That's where I kind of struggle. Is if I ever did land being very close to somebody who was not on the side that I'm coming from, and they need information, they need ideas to help kind of extract or have it be part of what they're trying to do, because that's what often happens is other people will take ideas or kind of pose them as others, and that's not quite paranoia there, guys, because um, it's happened too many times where I see somebody else that got a um, great idea, and they're like, we need ideas to help move this forward or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I think this is fantastic, I think this is a great idea, and I've only done that three times in this particular group, a long time ago, and then once like 2 years ago, different person, different people, but when you see people trying to do good, um, but also they're getting led in a dark path, and you're like, okay, I gotta send this off, man. Kind of stay away from this. But here's where I'm at. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what the direction I think it needs to go. And then the best parts of what you say, they reiterate it and put it in their popular videos and everything, but never give you due credit for it, or never. So that's kind of the strange part of the situation that happened. Um, on a couple occasions, the best ideas were reiterated. Without ever saying, thanks, man, for, I had to say something. It's a great idea. I love the idea. No, you never said that. People never said that. So there's that kind of like paranoia, like people trying to take the best knowledge as their own. And that does happen in the world. That's reality. Um, but again, it gets into story. For whatever reason, every person is writing a story. They got a paperback novel, a book novel. They got movie ideas, trilogies, and all these other things. And we have like ghost writers, and you have extraterrestrials and different dimensions and all this. Science fiction writing, but here in reality. So it gets into large dynamics and stuff, and particularly what I was writing is a new awakening, an actual awakening that comes through music, and it comes through art, and it comes through that being the foundation of a competitive world and a new economy. That if whatever country you're from, there's so much war in areas, whatever country you've come from, bring that, that's part of the battlefield. If you want to say you're better than America, or America's better than this country or that country, you got Russia, North Korea, Canada, Australia, Africa, Brazil, whatever, Mexico, um, Scotland, Ireland, any of those places. bringing that creative expression of who your country is and your cultural melting pot. If you're proud of your country, if you're proud of who you are, instead of going towards the rendition of war, or the future of war being competitive that way, have some balls and show who you are as a country. Who show. If you're proud of yourself, you express yourself. If you're not expressing yourself in your culture, then you're kind of missing out. And I think that's kind of the direction things should go in the future, because each country has different resources, different crafts, different things that they're known for. If it's like building furniture, or if it's building different foods that they grow, and they're known for that, or different arts and different music. Expressing that is expressing being proud of your country. And here in America, we have the great opportunity, because we're the melting pot, to be fully expressive of that. And I think that's where we'll strive and thrive. Instead of worrying about the politics and the nonsense and everything, I think the economy needs to grow in that kind of direction. It's stupid to brag about one side being supreme over the other. And again, we talk about this fakeness. We're sick and tired of fake people being fake, and we need more honesty in the world. And I still think people just aren't listening to these kinds of solutions and these kinds of ways of thinking. They get too stubborn. That's all on their part, because they continue to say things on purpose to trigger or to I don't know. There's this part of society where I think people think it's funny to get arguments going. They think it's funny for to try to get away with lying. But what we realize, I hope, is that eventually the truth within yourself and those ideas that each one of you have is a huge part of what's going to be real, or what should be more real in this world. If that makes any sense, I hope so. But again, me as myself, I've never compromised myself, and I don't go seeking these kinds of people that come from the sides, this side of the conservatives. There's this thing about attractive qualities. When you believe in bullshit, when you believe in nonsense, when you know everything's bullshit and everything's lies, and then I found out that you're a big fan of that. Of course, I'm going to retract and say sorry. Yeah, this was nice meeting you and everything. I can't continue this conversation. In my mind, and part of that too is judgment. I'm like, yeah, I see that cool. I see that cool side of you, and I wish that would be you. I wish that would be more you. But if you want to continue believing bullshit and riding the bandwagon for attention, then yeah, by all means, go ahead and do that. But that's not going to be fulfilling on a larger scale of things in life. And I guess it kind of pulls everything back to when I just tell people, these great, amazing people I meet, and I greet, and I see, and I have conversations with, and then I kind of put everything together. It's always like these coincidences within conversations and within the night, and people are like, "Holy crap, Chad! Who do you know?" And then when I skim the surface and I look at everything, I'm like, I don't know. These are just people that have amazing backgrounds and conversations, and I'm not part of any team right now. I'm just a freelance person going around talking to different people in this world and locally, and I'm trying to find the niche that is honest, that is safe, that is cool, that is kick-ass, that is protective, that especially with the gay community, that stands up with the gay community, especially in that part too. That's so important. Not bullshitting the country, not bullshitting, the Bible thumpers and everything. We talk about judgment and everything. You know damn well that in this country, on the far right. The further it goes to the right, the more judgmental it can be on the gay community. But I always think that they kind of, the first accuser of the gay community, saying that we're the problem, um, what do they say? They always say we're demasculating society, or we're making society, we're indoctrinating society to be for a gay agenda. There's never been a gay agenda. If you look back at it, it's us expressing ourselves freely, and other people being like, I kind of respect that. I kind of like that. I kind of, no, they don't go to gay pride festivals, but then when they start to realize on television and everything, hey, yeah, these are actually telling the stories that are closer to, guys, people that are married and they have family and they're just trying to live and they have normal lives and they have normal jobs. We're not trying to get in your way of anything. And we make fun of it, but in comedies and stuff, in movies, and expression of every emotion that we have. We're just trying to propel ourselves and our careers and our expression, because we love expression and we love the beauty of expression. So there's nothing bad there to come back and attack. And I don't know if there's some sort of weird thing within the far right that is, God is creation. Holy crap, the gay community is expressing themselves phenomenally as far as creative expression. Is there a jealousy there, and somehow they're trying to figure out, well, should we judge them or should we not judge them? All the hate always comes towards the gay community, but I think it's like them kind of like trying to poke us, like, hey man, like, tell us what you know, man, because if you know something different, that it's time for the gay community to step up and say, yeah, I was guided by God, by spirituality, by this, by that, and this is what I've learned and what it's taught me, and it comes from the exact same place when you pray. Everything, I think, comes from even the darkness and the light and the angels and the guidance, guiding energy. Even it comes from above, but it comes from within. And that's just kind of the reality of things. So I feel like there's this part of hatred that's like poking the other people of the gay community, especially. They make fun of, they call us faggots, they say we're this, we're that, you're immoral, you're sinners and everything. But at the same time, they know damn well we look at this whole situation when they're purposely like expressing every sin that they're guilty of, and they're kind of like poking at the gay community, saying, okay, we always said you're sinners, but you guys are actually like proving yourselves worthy here in society because you're working, volunteering, you're more involved with the community, you're actually expressing yourselves, you're building companies, you're successful in the business world. So how do you guys do it? And I think the only way they can ask is by being punks to the gay community, and that's a really strange way to put it. Inquiring, like, what do you know, or how do you know these things? And it's being a punk to us because they want to learn more. If that makes any sense, I hope that's not generalizing, but I think that's a main topic and issue is if there's a lack of understanding coming from a very conformed, very conservative, very constricted, very inside the box way of thinking, and this is all about feeling free and expressive. I think that's a good point, is poking fun at the gay community and trying to be punks to the gay community. There's a small part there that is actually inquiring, like, how do you guys do it? We know you're not sinners. We know you're not the enemies. We know you're not being like there's this ideology, this bullshit that comes out of the right, that the gay elite are trying to hurt America and demoralize it. No, that's not what's happening. But actually, your lack of understanding of who the gay community is and your fear of us is driving, demasculizing your own selves in a way, because it becomes a very, very ugly type of personality that keeps attacking us. You keep, attacking the gay community because there's something on your side you're guilty of, or there's something you don't understand, and you have to pick on somebody. So it's a fascinating topic, I think, especially when writing, and especially, um, and that goes into so many issues too, especially. We talk about the youth of America and the dreamers of America and everything, and we have demonstration of one side exposing it. Just they fucking had people running as open pedophiles on the conservative movement in this last ticket, or they had people running as Nazis, or they had people running as um, um, just bigots and hateful people on purpose. They did it on purpose. So there's no way in hell that side is going to ever trigger and attack that conversation. Um, that the gay community is the problem, the issue. Um, it's like I feel they were testing the grounds on their side, and then when they usually attack the gay community and say, they're the ones going after your children, or they're the ones trying to make people gay, or make, they have the conversion therapy and everything. That is such a large piece of bullshit that we've ever heard in the world, especially looking at those people, um, um, people, myself, the politicians, people that are running for office, people that are out there in the world, and television, media, or entrepreneurship. Gay people are out there struggling just like everybody else, trying to push a better message forward. And that should be clear. Why it isn't on the conservative right side, I don't understand. And what they're missing, I don't understand. Um, they're casting the stones constantly at us. And then, you have the blue side, the left side, casting stones at them. You can't really get out of playing the victim. I know it could have been set up where they purposely became jerks and assholes and punks to this world so they can say, oh, well, they're ostracizing us. We're the victim. We're being judged. Oh no, well, that's because the lack of compassion and love that comes through everything you say, or you tweet, or you pass legislation, and it's not helping anybody. The poor, the weak, the both sides of, you hurt your own party, and that's what pisses me off, is when I see it's not just hurting America in general, it's hurting your own party and your reputation. But if you can't get that, it starts getting political. But I think we need more honesty in the world. Um, there's going to be a time when I'm just going to be yelling. I don't know. I don't know. That passion, that just not anger, but that like that actual that warrior kind of comes out in you. But I know that's there, and I know it goes into the story I was writing that potentially I could be one of the. I have a lot to offer this world, and I want to make sure that begins to happen here in the future. And I'm in a good direction too right now. I'm actually starting to accumulate and save and start to see where I can move to, or restart some good opportunities and try it. I've missed opportunities in the past, but I see many opportunities start to flourish here too in the future, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So I think we need a little more honesty in this world. I procrastinate on a lot of things. My creative side, I'm not painting as much, drawing, sculpting, sketching, all that other stuff. But I've done so much of that in the beginning of my life. I can still go back to that stuff and say, hey, like, this stuff is still relevant now. These designs and concepts and things are still relevant now. And I'm so glad that I did all of that work. And I was very, very busy up all the way into my 30s working on these kinds of things and concepts. So there's definitely a purpose for what I have done, even though I'm not actively making those things come to fruition and manifest. It's still like the ideas were set up early on in my life so that I can bring them forward here in the future, if that makes any sense. But again, this is about being honest, and honesty, and trust, and judgment. I always had Um, I guess the schizophrenic, the paranoia part, and this gets into a stupid thing, but I always thought there's a stupid conspiracy that the enemy was trying to do everything they could possibly do to try to mask the fact, or slander me, or misjudge me, or slander or lie, or things about me, just to cover up the idea that they got some, like, the best, I don't know, those things that are going to work here, that reason. I know for sure that there's a group of writers and everything that they look for information, look for ideas and stuff, but I'm not actively out there trying to seek those people out. I'm actively going out and trying to socialize more and find the right people to do that with, and to manifest those things that are, don't have like a ill will or harmful, that basically gets right down to it. I have to using my intuition to make sure, I find those right people, and they're out there, of course. And I'm, you know, I still try to bring up those conversations, and that's what it's about. But anyway, um, dang, this is 40 minutes. I gotta get going here, guys. Much love. Take care of yourselves. Bye.